Good morning, Max Keller. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. How you doing? You ready for the boom? You ready to
Dude,
drop the boom?
bring the heat. Max, one of the issues I have with you, and it's the only one. Every single time we talk, there's so much content, so much value that I wish I was recording it. I want it out there streamed. But today I've got you. I've got you trapped in one spot. I'm going to ask you all the questions. And we were just joking before this. You're always wearing the blue polos. Tell the story behind that.
Tell us about your shirt. You go
No,
first. It looks like
so
we got the same thing.
I'm always trying to outshine everybody, but you always give me a hard time with it. So,
No,
so
I don't know. I just, we just really only, people listening are probably a lot of different ages. And at some point you realize that you just only have so much time on planet Earth and you have to just decide what you're going to do. My wife takes care of our family. We have a lot of kids and she's tired at the end of the day because everybody's asking her so many questions, because they're little kids. And, what I'm finding is that very successful business owners, they talk to as few people as possible and they make as few small decisions as possible because they really need to save that energy for the biggest decisions. And so, wearing, you're not just going to be successful by wearing the same thing every day, but if it's on purpose and it's to simplify parts of your life that aren't going to really make a difference with outcomes, so you can focus your energy on things that are going to make an impact, that will help. So the reason that I wear blue polos is just I like the color blue, and now I'm getting rid of all the clothes that aren't blue polos, and because I don't want to have spent, when I wake up, I do my morning routine, I don't want to invest 10 or 15 of the possible 200 decisions that I can make a day on what color my socks are going to be or my shirt. Do you do kind of the same thing, or do you agree with that?
yeah, it makes sense. So I have all the different colors in my look. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm going on a sales call, I'll make sure that I'm wearing blue. And the vests there's only 4 or 5 vests, but the colors are already designed. If I pick a color, I know what I'm wearing. It's been designed for a very long time. So even though it's a flashy look, it's a simple look. It's the same thing. It's consistent, but it looks like it's something different, even though to me it's the same thing every single day.
Exactly. Wonderful.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
so that's a little bit about our couture. Man, I didn't know we were going to get into that.
We got there, man. So Max, let's for everybody else who is dying to figure out what you do and why you're so influential, why you're one of the best guests that we've had on here. Tell me a little bit how you got into real estate. How'd you get started, and how'd you get to the massive level that you're at, not just in real estate, but as an influencer for other real estate investors? How did
Yeah,
it all start?
good question. Well, it always starts with curiosity. So you're probably going to be drawn to things that you're curious about. And for me, I always like real estate because in the neighborhood that I was in, I went to a school that was on the north side of town, and the houses were awesome. And I just thought it'd be really cool to live in a nice house. I'm not really sure why people like houses, but I always did. So I was the kid who would ride their bike around the neighborhood and pull the flyers out and go home and look at them. And so I always wanted to get into real estate. In my early 20s, I really tried to. I started like an LLC. I had a map of where I was going to buy rentals, but I just didn't have very much education. So you have to have curiosity, which I had. You have to have education. It took me a little while to get it. Finally, I discovered it's in books. So I started reading. Got a local mentor, started getting involved in masterminds early in my real estate career. I was actually teaching math. I was a math teacher. And I just I did not plan on doing real estate full time. I plan on I want to get one rental a year, have a little bit of cash flow, and just supplement my income. I was actually really happy being a teacher. I wasn't one of those people who complained. I loved it. And so that's the other part. So it's like you have to have curiosity, then you have to read. Then I just kept wanting to do more, and it turned into a couple hundred, fix and flips. I had, my office, my team, crews running. You know how all that works. But I kept learning from people who are ahead of me.
Yeah.
And then I think how the influencer thing happened, it was probably two parts. Number one is in order to influence, you have to know something and then be willing to share it with other people.
Yeah.
And it can't just be hypothetical. It needs to be things that you've actually done. So I don't know about people who can be influencers without any experience. But when you flip hundreds of houses, you skin your knees. And I'm in Dallas, Fort Worth. The competition is stiff, like a lot of markets for real estate deals. And so I took my education background. I have a master's degree in education, and I took that background and I created a book for my ideal customer. And at the time, it wasn't intended to start this publishing company or this big national movement. I had no intention of sharing with anybody but this little old lady who needed to sell their house, and she needed to figure out how to do it, and her adult child needed to. And I just couldn't sit in their living room for 6 hours. So I give them my book, and then I give them the workbook. It's turned into classes, and then other real estate professionals got involved in it. But how you really become an influencer is I gathered the real estate experience, and then, you know, I have a pedagogy background, so I understand how the brain learns, you know, and how you learn. But you have to love people, because if you love people and you want to help people, then if you know something that you know could help somebody, I mean, you would never hold it back, you know? So that's the way my attitude is, I don't hold back. I actually have to, because when you study how the brain works, not everybody can take in as much as you already have in there. So you got to chunk it. You got to put it in blocks. So if I just said it was 3 steps on the path to influence, it would be number 1 is you have to have some curiosity. Number 2, you have to go out and get some experience. And then number 3, you have to be able to want to share and use that information, not just to make yourself more money or more famous. That can be a motivator. Mine is different. Mine is just, I love people. The best thing that have happened to me is not a $70,000 wholesale fee or a $100,000 flip. It's when somebody says, I read one of your books, or I followed what you did, and it really helped me and I appreciate it. And maybe I get a little Christian side hug if we're not in Chrono. And that's how I roll. And that's been my path to, you know, where we are today.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I saw about you when you came and spoke in Boston, and you did it actually virtually. So you were supposed to come up here, speak at the Boston Real Estate Investors Association, but you still gave an amazing delivery of knowledge and information, and you did it not because there was money on the line, which there was, and there was an opportunity for people to move forward with you and be able to publish a book that you did all the work on and create for themselves. But there was also this, hey, like, whatever questions you have, I'm here to add value. I'm here to deliver more value. And you stayed on longer than many of the speakers that we see come up. And that was one of the things I saw about you. I said, man, this guy is a giver. Like, he just wants to keep giving and add value. And it's been like that for a very long time for you, hasn't it? You find that since you've been educating, how'd you get an education in the first place?
Yeah, so actually, I wasn't always a giver. You know, I don't like people who don't tell the truth. And so with me, what you're going to get is, I hope I don't let you down, but if I do, it's just the way it goes. Because I'm just going to tell you the sincere, genuine truth of what's happening. I thought that the path to riches was just to do whatever it takes. Be like Gordon Gekko. I had the Wall Street poster in my room in college. I had the Boiler Room poster. I thought that I majored in finance at UT Austin in 2003 is when I graduated. And I thought I was going to hightail it up to New York and be a stockbroker. And at that time, the business was changing and it was turning more into a financial advisory. I was 22, but I looked like I was about 12. And I was like, man, I just don't know. I just didn't have confidence. You know, I didn't know about being a financial advisor. And so I got into corporate finance, used my degree, and it was not for me. Yeah. You can't really use a lot of imagination, creativity. It's not really the place for that. No. So I was actually recruiting. So I didn't want to do corporate finance. I was a straight commission recruiter for 2 years for accounting and finance people. And I like that. You know, you get to talk to people. You need to do what you like, right? It was a good role. But then, but when I was there, I wasn't as much a giver as I am now. I was more of a matcher. You know, there's 3 kinds of people. There's takers, matchers, and givers. You've heard of this.
I've read the book. Yep.
Yeah. And so I would be like, okay, if I do this for you, will you do this for me? And I thought it was like this like point system. And I did it at work. I did it in my relationships. And it was not the way to live at all. And really what changed my heart was when I became a teacher. I didn't like just doing finance and, you know, all this stuff. And my wife was a teacher and she said, you've always talked about doing it. They need math teachers. Why don't you try it? You know, so my company where I was working, they let me take 2 days off a week. I was a substitute and I tested it out. And literally from day one, it was magic. And I saw how these kids needed mentors. They needed people helping them. I was mostly teaching at inner city schools and the kids were struggling. And I worked with 9th graders. And most people, you go to junior high, I mean, people don't want to go there.
No.
You're there because you either have to be, which I had a lot of options, or because you want to be. And I loved it. I loved every day I coached. You get to really know the kids, build huge relationships. I love coaching basketball. I had to tell everybody I like coaching football because I'm in Texas,
Yep.
but basketball by far. And you know, because in football, I mean, literally, if you have a lousy team and somebody has a great team, you're just going to get trounced. Like, just go watch college football. I mean, do the little schools ever really beat the huge schools? No.
Yeah.
Okay, but in basketball, it's different.
Yep.
And so what I liked about basketball is I had more influence in the outcome as the coach,
Yep.
and the team could really kind of be just average and really do amazing things. And I think that's a corollary to life, is that you can literally, if you can really put influence into yourself and influence your own decisions, it starts with you. You don't have to be this superstar, 6'10" person to, if you have a lot of heart. I mean, look at Steph Curry. He doesn't have all the physical attributes, but he does very well. And that's what I love about basketball. And I think it really applies to life, is we can do the same thing in our real estate business. So if you're watching this and you're like thinking about, there's a path, there's a roadmap you need to take. But number one is that if you're not a giver right now, you can be, okay? You just need to decide to and practice it. And then number two is make your life like the game of basketball, which is you don't have to have the best team. The best team doesn't always win. There's a lot of strategy, follow the right roadmap, get the right coaches and mentors, and you can go all the way to the championship.
This is why you have to be recorded at all times.
Oh.
This is it right here.
No, most of the time you can't, but that's just,
Right.
that's how I feel about it. And so it is a journey, and at any point it can change, but don't wait too long, because life is really fragile.
So one of the lessons in real estate is don't wait to buy real estate and wait. And you were fortunate enough to get into it early enough where over the past couple of years, you've seen massive results.
Mm-hmm.
You've expanded fast enough, not because you work harder, but because you work smarter. Mm-hmm. Having that accounting degree, that background, I also came from finance, and some of the other more successful younger investors came from finance backgrounds. And it's almost like there's something in there where you're running the numbers and you're seeing how it works. And it's like, wow, like, this doesn't work unless you're in real estate. And there's probably an aha moment for you. And that giver matcher, I can relate to that. I was also a matcher. So being a giver is far more abundant, feels much better. Yeah. And once you become a true giver, I think having that matcher background for you has allowed you to also recognize other givers and say, I just want to be around other givers.
Right.
I'm not hanging out with matchers. I'm not hanging out with takers. I'm just going to go to other givers. Whereas some givers never had the matching experience, and they can either be taken advantage of or they can really give. And there's that balance between the super successful givers and the super unsuccessful givers, because there is that balance. Yeah, so you have that. And it's great, because the more you spend your time with people who give, the more you give, the more you change the world, the more you're actually to make it a better place. And that's where, your books actually come into play. You mind talking about one of the books, or the first one you wrote?
Sure. Yeah. So the first book I wrote was called Home to Home, the Step-by-Step Senior Housing Guide. And the reason that I wrote it was because I found that I got to about deals 60 or so, and I was getting kind of burnt out. If you're doing full-time real estate, you got a couple crews going, 8 rehabs, permits, city, raising money. It's a hard business. It's a hustle business. And, I was doing everything I could to systematize it, but I was getting burnt out, and I was like, I was so much happier being a teacher. I was actually thinking about just going back to that, and I never saw my family, and I was like, this sucks. And so I got to figure out how to make it better. So I was at a mastermind, which is number one, is you got to invest and be around people who are better than you. And if there was one thing I could put my finger on that really made a big difference, was I got into my first mastermind when I was on deal number 2. And most of the time I have people who've been in the business 10 years in my city. They don't even know what a mastermind is.
Took me a while too. So good job.
And it was total luck. I mean, it was total luck. I got invited to a boot camp by a friend who is a great a partner of mine right now, Connor Steinbrook. And
oh, nice.
Yeah. So I was on deal number 1, and he brought me to a boot camp. And then the leader of that boot camp started a mastermind. He knew we were just getting started, so he kind of gave us a little bit of a deal. And then when I saw how powerful it was, I was like, well, these guys are amazing, but they're not like superhuman. Like, I could do this too. And so when you're around other people who are doing big things, you can you can really, you can do amazing things. And so I got a coach, a business coach. Another thing that's really important is you have to be able to admit when you suck at something.
Yeah.
And I literally got to year 2 and I hadn't made a lot of net profit in my business and in my flipping business. And I was like, crap, like and I was miserable with these customers, you know, like, cause they were just really hard to work with. So I did 2 things. I hired a business coach, and that person looked at my financials and they instantly knew what the problem was. They taught me how to really, I knew how to do personal finance, but business finance is different. Right. You know, I have a finance degree. It's a little embarrassing to tell people that I don't really understand everything about the small business finance. Right. You know, I didn't have everything dialed in on my accounting. I was having trouble finding the right people because I was so busy running around getting deals, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at some point in your career to make a big gain, you're gonna have to learn from somebody who's ahead of you, and you're gonna have to admit, even when it's hard to, that there's just something you need help with. And that coach had multiple books. And so he taught me how to write books. So it was kind of a double benefit. And he said, well, who is it that you want to attract more of? And I made my list of 60 customers. And it was, I did 2 things. I measured what the net profit was from each deal. Because if there's no margin, there's no mission.
Right.
If you're on a mission to help people, it helps to have money.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can get it without money. Yeah.
So I could tell that, so I wrote down what my most profitable deals were and like who they were. And every time my most profitable deals and the people that I liked working with the most were seniors. So I told that to my coach and I said, man, it's seniors. You know, my grandma helped raise me. I took care of her. I've always been around seniors. I met my wife at church bingo. Like, I mean, can't make this up. I mean, we're Catholic, you know, so like we you know, bingo, it's a big deal. And so the bottom line is like, I loved helping these seniors and they need a lot of help. So my coach said, well, write a book about them. And I was nervous that by getting into a niche that I would exclude the other people and I would lose business. And actually the opposite happened. Anytime the word senior housing is brought up, you know, people are thinking of me. It's really interesting when you own a word. I'll go to masterminds and somebody will say senior housing or working with seniors. And then everybody will like look and point to me. And I was like, man, this really works. And so I did it to teach, to help, to serve, to give. Yep. You know, that's the first things that pop in my mind. But what's really cool about how the book turned out is it's 99% about the customer, 1% about me. Yep. And a lot of the choices that we offer people in the book don't point to me. And that's really the key. If you go to a presentation and all the choices you present go to you, you look like a salesperson.
Exactly.
But if they don't, so that's kind of how the book happened. And then we created a workbook because it's a funny story. Do we have time for a funny story?
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
Okay, I didn't know. So I'm skiing with some guy. I wrote this book.
I'm just going to turn up your speed a little bit so we get all the stories in. So
yeah, well, this one more, I promise, officer.
You're good.
So I'm skiing with some friends. So literally I write my book. Books do incredible things. You have a book. Did books do incredible things for you?
Absolutely incredible things for me and the listeners and the readers of the book.
You know what I mean? I mean, it really works. I mean, there's a reason why. If you look at the word authority, I think the first part of that has the word author in it, you know?
I'm pretty sure it's got book right there. You're right, author.
Help me out. So, but the bottom line is, authority. So I wrote a book and literally within 6 months, I had 3 people who offered me equity positions in their companies. And that has never happened in the first 38 years of my life. Okay. And then it happened 3 times in 6 months after my book got published. Coincidence? I don't think so. No. So I'm at a ski lodge and my friends are there. It's around Christmas time. They pay for my whole trip. I mean, things are happening in my life that have never happened before. I come from a middle class background. My dad worked in a warehouse and then he worked at like a circuit board factory. Very smart guy. You know, and my mom's a nurse, but I mean, we weren't driving Benzes and stuff, you know? No. And now I'm hanging out with the people who do, and I'm making the income to where I could if I wanted to. And I'm like, this is great. And so we're in the ski vacation and my friends are getting calls and it's their CPA, it's their attorney, because it's the end of the year and they're doing their planning. And I'm sort of living in 2 parallel universes. I'm living in my mastermind world and around my friends that are, you know, making 300K and above. They're doing really well and they're doing things 300K and above active income people do. They're talking about conservation easements. Most people don't know what that is, but that's really important when you start making over 300K. We're talking about a lot of accounting. We're talking about planning. We're talking about precious metals. We're doing all these things, and so I'm living in two parallel worlds. I'm skiing, and people are talking to their tax planning attorney, and then I go back to Fort Worth, Texas, and I'm buying a house from Mavis, who worked for the school system as a bus driver. Her husband passed away. She's got a little pension from the school, a little pension, a little bit of Social Security. Her house is falling apart. And she doesn't have a tax planning attorney in her phone. She doesn't have CPAs because she doesn't have any assets.
Right.
And, when me and you were talking about finance, and the game changed. It used to be trading stocks. And you could trade stocks with Mavis. And then it turned into the advisory business. And people start focusing on people who had higher net worth. What happened to all the other people? They just sort of didn't get the planning done. And so I was like, what could I create that would really help these people? And so I sort of created like Dave Ramsey has Financial Peace University. When I took that when I was a broke teacher, and then I taught it at our church, one thing I noticed is that people who came to it were from all different backgrounds. It wasn't just poor people. It wasn't just middle class. It was lawyers. It was everybody. So I've noticed on my journey that people have not done a lot of planning. And these senior homeowners that I wanted to get more of, they hadn't done planning. So when I created the workbook, I envisioned like a Financial Peace University for around housing, because what was happening is my seniors, they would call investors, and because they lived in their house 40 years. They don't know how much it's worth. They don't know what to do. And so they call an investor, and the investor would tell them all the reasons why real estate agents are idiots and why they should go with them, why they're the best investor. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Oh yeah. I've heard the stories. I've heard the trainings. Absolutely.
And then they call a real estate agent, and the real estate agent tells them that investors are all scum and why they're the best agent, and they have the most letters after their name. And then they call a senior housing facility, and they're the best facility. Oh, and it's going to be $5,000 a month, and they've had a paid off mortgage for 10 years. So what do you think they're doing? They're freaking out. Guess what their kids are doing? They're freaking out. The kids don't live at home anymore. The kids are 2 states away. They're worried. The mom's getting sick. Dad died. They've got their own family to raise. They don't know how mom pays bills. They don't know what her computer passwords are. You know what I'm saying? There's this huge transition time, and I was like, and once again, it came out of the mission, because if the mission was just for me to make money, I would have just done a bunch of Facebook ads, paid somebody to calculate my return on marketing investment. As long as I was making more, who cares? But because I really wanted to do both, help these people and make money, I went a little above and beyond, and I created this system. And now me and local experts all over the U.S. are using it to host virtual workshops where 100 sellers show up at one time. Live workshops, 20, 30 people are showing up. That has a lot of leverage. And they're passing their books out. They're making their marketing better. So I never anticipated this to happen. So I would just say, dream big, and the things that we talked about earlier. But it's been a really cool journey. And when you can help people and make money, it's a good feeling. And actually, the more you help them, the more money you make.
Isn't that crazy how it works?
It is so weird. I still can't believe it.
It's funny because, and we all heard it, reading all the books and going to all the seminars, they say, really just do something that you love, that helps people, and the money will follow, right? Just really find your passion. As long as it helps people, and as long as it's something people would pay for, you don't have to worry about it. Just keep doing more and more and more of that, and the money will follow.
Right.
And it's almost like, okay, but how do I get the more money?
Right. I need to get the money first.
You're right.
Nah, it doesn't actually work that way.
Exactly. And it's not until you actually open up and you just fall in love with the work, fall in love with the people, fall in love with what you're doing, and truly the money does just fall into your lap.
Yeah, it's amazing. You got to have follow through. Where a lot of people miss the boat is follow through. And for folks who are listening, if you get real motivated one day and you put some flyers out on doors or your business card, and you go driving for dollars, you got some bird dogs that are out helping you aggregate deals. That stuff works, but you got to be consistent. One of the biggest lessons I've learned, I've been in probably 8 or 9 different masterminds that have been great. One gentleman that I know who's made the transition from a real estate professional to a business owner, and there are certain qualifications to doing that. And I'm doing that transition right now. You know, I don't. I'm. It takes some. It's been the hardest transition by far. Being an individual producer is a lot different than running a company. So different. And one of the things I've learned from my friend Jerry Green's, one of the smartest guys I've met, and my friend Glenn Stromberg, who's both run really successful companies, is that the pace of business is like this. It's very steady and consistent. And a lot of visionaries, a lot of high energy people like us, who want to just go out and like shake trees and make it happen. Right. And it's up and down. And so I've had to really learn to drink tea, not coffee, just to kind of calm it down and just be consistent. You know, my partner, Connor Steinbrook, told me this like 5 years ago. He's so smart. He said, he goes, let 99% of what you hear fly right over the top of your head. Most people who give out a lot of advice are only doing it because nobody else would actually ask what their opinion was. So don't listen. Be very, very careful who you take advice from, because sometimes it's just flat out not right. But consistency is really, really important, and having follow up. And that's what's been cool about the books is that when we give people a book, it's like our business card, and they never throw it away. They keep it, they cherish it. And so when they have a need, it's sort of like built-in follow-up. The statistics are 80% of sales require 5 follow-ups or more, according to calldrip.com. And so most normal people, like, this is where you have to get real with yourself. Most people aren't going to want to call 4 times to get no's. I mean, it doesn't feel good to get rejected. Do you know the most successful people in America get rejected the most often?
Of course. It's a numbers game.
It is. It's just, and you just bounce back. And so, so those are some things that I think about when I'm trying to get business, is like, how do we attract people to our business? You know, how do we, you can be a hunter and like track people down, or you can be a trapper. And I like to just share and attract. I like to have, so that's what we do with the books. That's what our local people do. And it's a you know, innovative way to market. It works. It's been around a long time. You've been marketing with your book, and you can write it on your own, or you can go with, you know, people that can help you. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but being creative is, there's a lot of money in that.
And I would say writing on your own is almost crazy, right? Like, I did it, and it's because I am 100% retired. I have a lot of passive income. I have a lot of time on my hands, and it was time consuming, and there's a lot of help involved and a lot of people I had to go to. And when I saw your option to have books written already in existence, exactly designed for exactly what you're looking to attract and help, I was like, dude, this is something that the world needs. This is something that real estate investors, real estate professionals who are looking to get to the next level and want that authority. It's like it's a master's degree for the modern age. And not what, like, a master's degree is not going to do shit for you unless you want to be a doctor, but being the author of a book in your marketplace will actually make you the authority on a subject that actually matters to you as the entrepreneur. And that's what you found on accident almost. I mean, you were guided to it, but
yeah, no, I didn't plan out. You know how I got it's always like, we have to always, it's curiosity and then the desire to learn. And so actually where I sort of got the idea from, Dan Kennedy was a huge influence. He wrote the book, Book the Business. And he said that if you list the 100 ways to make money with a book, the number one way, well, the dead last one would be selling it. You know, Joel Osteen, Oprah, they make money selling books. Most people don't. Do you make a lot of money selling books?
No.
Do you?
Well, the second side of it, the transaction, but not the book itself.
No, but how you do it is by getting, the number one way to make money with a book is to attract a new customer. And so for people on your channel who are listening, who are real estate investors, real estate agents that work with investors, our customers are worth a lot of money. You know, this isn't a donut shop, you know, where the average person shows up 3 times, average transaction's $10. That's a $30 lifetime value of a customer. You know, we have lifetime values of customers in the 5 and even 6 figures. And so if we invest 20, you know, if you read the book Profit First and you focus on, you know, you allocate 20% towards your marketing budget. I mean, if you want to make $1 million a year in real estate, you're going to invest money in your marketing. That's just the way it is. But it's worth it for us. And so we can go to these next levels and get a lot of the benefit. But so I noticed that people were doing this in the financial services industry. You know, I had my Series 7 and Series 6 or 63 license. And so I noticed that people who are really heavily licensed and regulated, there was a lot of restrictions on what they could do in advertising. And so what they did to kind of go around that a little bit, or, you know, have a detour, is they would write a book and they would talk and promote the book, which was education. Do you see what I'm saying? And so I was like, let's do the same thing, but with what we do. You know, we have a private money system where we did the same thing. Oh, what's he getting? There's some props. Is this a magic show?
So you mean all of these guys who write books about how to private money, how to lend, it's because they're looking to syndicate. Oh, what's that one right there? You recognize that one?
Yeah, that's one of our authors. Yeah, I do. Yeah,
and
very cool. Right.
They do it, and it's phenomenal that, like, you've actually created an opportunity for people to do something like that using, you know, your relationship with Grant Phillips. It's
yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, what you said is right. Yeah, so what we did, that was even another, so I saw the power of books, but that doesn't eliminate the first problem, which is how are you going to invest the hundreds of hours to write your own book? So what we do is we create books that are reference documents. A reference, you know, the encyclopedias, they don't change, right? And so we have reference document material that the customers are very interested in learning, and then we create local editions from the master copies. And we write the author into the local edition. Now, how much are they in it? Well, it's a small amount. It takes about an hour of their time. So for 1 hour of their time, we create a custom local edition book that they can share, and that's their new business card. It's their new lead magnet to get customers. So they're buying speed, they're buying accuracy, and for a very, very small investment, less than the value of one customer, that pays for the program for years. And so we've made it affordable that way too, because you can write a book yourself, but there's a time component and then how to actually structure it. And if you've never done that, you know it can be challenging. How long did it take you to write your book? In months or hours?
Months. Months. I'd say 6 months. And it was because I lived in Vegas during the whole time. I literally had no work to do. I moved out to Vegas to write the book. Right. And I didn't even finish while I was out there. And when I came back, I needed other partners, and I had a ghostwriter finish a lot of. My brother was actually a ghostwriter on it, so there was a lot involved. And yeah, I love what you've done here. And I was looking at it, you know, how to raise private capital, how to do it ethically, how to do it the right way. So, and if you're looking to have, you know, lend money to somebody, the book actually covers a lot of, hey, these are questions you should be asking potential borrowers. And it really helps you protect yourself. For me, we lend money, and I'm like, man, like, Ron, this should be a checklist for us. Like, we gotta go through this and make sure that everybody we're talking to, potentially lending money to, is following all these steps.
Yeah, what we find is my coach had written a lot of books, and he licensed them in other countries because he's from Africa. He's a worldly guy, and so he took his book and translated it into other countries because being from Africa, he knew that, you know, I mean, he speaks English, but not everybody does, okay? And so he knew that not knowing one of the primary languages, one of the hardest parts about that is that a lot of the books are only in certain languages. And so if you're not privy to that language, you can't learn that information. So I think he knew that, and so he started translating his books in different languages in different countries. And so he kind of showed me the power of that was possible. And then, you know, so we kind of just put a lot of different ideas together. But yeah, we have 2 systems right now, and we're coming out with a 3rd one that should be out probably in January. So our first system is how to aggregate and bring in senior homeowners and their adult children. We've got a couple webinars about it. I'll put the links, you know, down below. But we found it to be the most profitable niche. Robert Kiyosaki, Harry Dent, Mark Zuckerberg, they're all saying the same thing about what's going on with seniors. So if you're not plugged in and you want to learn about the silver tsunami and you honestly haven't heard that word, if you're in real estate, you need to know what the silver tsunami is because it's real and it's huge. So we have a book for that. And then we partner with Brant. That was the book I wrote. And then we partner with Brant Phillips, Private Lender Playbook, changed some things up, repurposed it. And it's the reference guide for how to attract private lenders to your business. And so in the book, it teaches it's a book, you know, some people are like, well, wait a second, who's it for? It's for a business owner in your local area. Instead of doing a 1-hour sales presentation at IHOP, you give them a copy of your book with you on the cover, you and Brant Phillips, and you say, this is the book that I wrote or I co-authored with Brant Phillips on private lending, and it pretty much walks you through the process. And what my coach said was very powerful, and this is why this works, is he told me that he gets two kinds of customers in his consulting business: customers who've read his book and customers who haven't read his book. And by far, his best customers are the ones who've already read his book. And I was like, huh. And so when a customer reads your book and they read this knowledge for 6 hours when you're not there, I don't want to say, it's not like they're more obedient, because they're not like a dog, but there's just like, it's just smoother for everybody. It's like, if, we're in relationships, right? I'm married. I'm sure you have 100 girlfriends. You're a very popular guy.
I am dialing down to one.
I'm proud of you. It took you long enough.
Done a great job.
Yeah. But the bottom line is where do most of the problems in relationships come from? Miscommunications. So what's a miscommunication? Either you forgot to tell somebody something, or you told it to them incorrectly. So when they read your book for 6 hours, and a lot of it's repeating over and over, and it's 6 hours of communication instead of just casually mentioning a few of the hot points, it's harder to have miscommunications because there's been more communication. But what's cool is it's time leverage. Me and you, we only have so much time. So, but when you hand somebody the book, when you go and speak, like we go and speak at local self-directed IRA events, we do virtual events where 100 people show up on how to, make great returns for retirement, how to grow their business. So when people show up to these, it's 100 people listening. It's 20 people listening. We're sending them the digital book instantly, no extra cost. And you've got, hundreds of hours of reading. So I'll give you another example. I recently bought a home from a senior. Sometimes the adult children help. Sometimes they blow the deal up. So I asked the senior, I say, well, hey, are you making the decisions here? Like, yeah. I'm like, well, is there anybody that if you didn't consult with, they'd feel left out? Like, well, yeah, my son, he's an accountant. He lives in Nebraska. Well, there's two ways you can go. You can not include the son, and then they go, wait, who's this yahoo that you're working with? They distrust them because they didn't pick them and they don't know you. Okay. Exactly. And so they're like, no, man, you're offering $100,000 from a mom's house. How could you do that? I'm going to go on Redfin. I'm going to go on Zillow. I'm going to get way more money. But if you build it, right. So what I do is I say, well, let me send your son a copy of the book so he knows what's going on. So I call the son up and I say, hey, Sonny, hey, Jeff, this is Max. I'm working with your mom here. I'm a local author in the area, and I'd like to send you an electronic copy of the book and workbook I gave your mom. So even though you're not physically here, you can see what we're talking about. And if I can get your mailing address, I'll have my assistant drop some of the mail to you. And then all of a sudden he's getting the books. He's reading them. He's seeing who we are online. And he's like, oh, wow, Mom, way to go picking this guy. And they're not calling other people. And so that's kind of how, a little bit in a nutshell, what you can do with books and market yourself. And so it makes everything that you do stronger. It makes the way your peers see you differently. And then you're getting equity opportunities. I mean, hey, that may not happen to you, but it might. It happened to me. And it still happens, And so it's amazing how there's people out there. When I was a matcher, my goals were all about me and the people in my house. And I did not have a line of people that wanted to get on that train and say, man, this Max Keller guy, we want to help him get rich. But when my mission changed to a bunch of strangers, people I'm probably never going to meet, 1 million seniors and their adult children, 1 million potential private lenders, so they don't get hoodwinked and they actually have knowledge and they can go pick better people and not lose their retirement to scoundrels. See, I hate scoundrels, but it's hard to be everywhere. And so, but when the mission grows to millions of people, all of a sudden there's all these people who want to help you do it. And guess what kind of people they are? The kind of people that you want helping you. It's like a win-win-win. So you have gotten the benefit of being an author. I've gotten the benefit of being an author. People should look into it. Our company, our website's customerschasing.you.com.
I was just going to ask. Perfect.
Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah, customerschasing.you.com, or you can go to YouTube and type in Customers Chasing You or Max Keller. I'll pop up. We have some free tools that we give people on our YouTube videos. You can kind of see what's going on. And then we have 2 book systems. We have a senior book system. We have a private lending book system. And we're actually in talks right now with a very big name in real estate, very big name. There'll be a press release when this comes out. And we're working on possibly co-authoring a book. This is a topic that you might be interested in. It's how to find, the book title is How to Pick an Investor-Friendly Agent.
Hey, this is
And
right up my alley.
you know a lot about that.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
it's focus of the business.
that's right. So we're
Very, very
working
cool opportunity.
working on that. So we'll see if this person is on board. And if so, we're going to make that happen. So local, agents all over the country that want to work with investors, this can be their new business card, their new attraction tool. And it's actually really, really important for this group because a lot of times agents who work with investors, it's not always in the same city. Sometimes where the cash flow properties aren't always where the people with the cash are.
That's exactly right. Typically, that's how it works.
It is typically.
I love it.
Isn't that funny? So can you imagine
yeah.
being able to instantly send a copy of your book as your business card electronically and drop one in the mail? You want to get that repeat business, that recurring business. That's the best business there is. And there's a lot of it in that industry. I think we're going to be able to help a lot of people.
Yeah, we joke around the office business part. We say we're like Robin Hood, right? We take the money from the rich, we give to the poor. We take it from over here, and we help them invest over here. That person's happy, and it's just the transfer of funds. And it's exactly that. It's not always, we take from the rich city and we bring it to the gateway city, and that's where the rents are just better, and you get more cash flow out of them. So very cool, Max.
It helps them. It brings them up. And then there's somebody new who kind of went down a little, and you can bring them up. And we're always uplifting people. I think that's why we hit it off and why we dress with the same colors.
It's because the rising tide raises all ships, and everybody else thinks that the rising tide is external of them. We understand we are the tide. We're rising everybody up and bringing everybody with us. And we wear the colors because, well, black is strong, it holds you, it balances you, but blue is a trusting color. It helps people fall more in line with what you're saying and less about everything else around them. So, Max, I'm glad you came on. I learned so much from you. Again, what is the name of the website? Easiest way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure. The easiest way, of course, is website. So go to customerschasing.you.com or check us out on YouTube, Max Keller, customerschasing.you.com, or you can send us our email address, info@Savior, like our Lord and Savior, publishinghouse.com.
And it wouldn't be fair, and it wouldn't be fair if I didn't ask you the same question I ask all of our guests. What are three things? 3 things. If you go back to younger Max, 20-year-old Max just coming out of college, what are those 3 things that if somebody told you, what would move your life faster, give you a more fulfilling life quicker?
Yeah, great question. 3 things. I think number 1 would be to read, because I didn't read until I was like 35. So read is number 1. Gosh, I don't know. Normally I'm not short on words. I would say read is number 1, help others and learn from people who are ahead of you, instead of thinking you already know everything. And so those are probably the 3 biggest things that have created an acceleration with me. Is I read a lot. A lot of people say they read a lot. They're just it's just social. It's just status signaling. They're not really reading a lot. Reading a lot is reading a lot. Do you know for every minute that you screw around each day and you don't do anything, I figured it out. A book is normally about 365 minutes. So if you waste 1 minute a day consistently, that's however many minutes you waste per day doing nothing that contributes to your goals. That's how many books you're missing out on reading per year. So if you're screwing around for 10 minutes a day, every day, that's 10 books you could have read. If you're screwing around for 60 minutes, that's 60 books you missed out on reading. What do you think reading 60 good books a year for multiple years is going to do for you? Well, that's in the last 4 years, that's what I've done, and you can see what happens. You have to put it into action, but it's a lot easier to put stuff into action when you actually know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, Max. That is some powerful advice. I knew you were going to give us something good. You gave us a lot of value this entire time. I definitely want to bring you back out here again.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. That book, it's very interesting. It's right up my alley. So Max Keller, some big things are coming. Ladies and gentlemen, when you have a choice, always work with the best. Cheers to your success, my friend. I'll see you soon.